Test. 1, 2, 3. Test. Hopefully this is coming through. Hey, how's it going? Lee Hayward here with the Total Fitness Bodybuilding video chat for Friday, June 14th. Fingers crossed that this is coming through loud and clear and that you can hear me and see me. And if it is coming through loud and clear, as you're popping onto the live stream, please let me know in the comment section or in the chat window if this is coming through. Just want to make sure. And we are streaming simultaneously through the Total Fitness Bodybuilding YouTube channel as well as the Total Fitness Bodybuilding Facebook page. So wherever you're tuning in from, hopefully it's coming through on your end. Loud and clear. Appreciate it, guys. Thank you much. Thank you. Good stuff. All right. Welcome to the Total Fitness Bodybuilding video chat. The way these chats work, of course, if you're a regular, you know how they work. But if you're brand new to the video chats, I want to welcome you. Thanks, Lee. Thank you for letting me know it's coming through loud and clear. Much appreciated. The way these video chats work is I'm going to be hanging out here for the next hour, answering questions and topics of discussion that you have related to health and fitness, whether it's building muscle, losing fat, any specific questions you may have regarding your workouts, regarding your nutrition. Feel free to type those questions and topics of discussion into our chat window, and I'll do the best that I can to help you out over the course of our chat today. And again, we're streaming simultaneously from Facebook as well as YouTube. So whatever platform you're watching from, you can type your questions and they'll come through here on my end as well. All right, and let me know as you're tuning in. Who do we have joining in? We have AJ's joining in. Welcome, AJ. Currently at the gym, full body workout. Good stuff. Awesome. Good stuff. So again, as you're popping onto the live stream, just let me know. If you're new to the video chat, don't be shy. Let me know, and we'll give you top priority. And of course, if you're a regular, welcome back. It's always nice to have regulars joining in because you guys are the ones who keep the show rolling, right? When we have the regulars tuning in. But of course, it's always nice to have new people joining into the Total Fitness Bodybuilding community. Adam's joining in. Welcome. This is brand new. Currently halfway through my back and bicep workout. My almost 2-year-old cheers me on. I love that. You're setting a positive example because I'm going to tell you, your 2-year-old, you're working out at home with the 2-year-old there. They're paying attention. Like that's having an impact on the subconscious level, right? That's playing a role right there. Good for you. Good for both of you. You have Jason joining in. How's it going? I'm doing fantastic. Thank you very much. And I'll tell you one thing that I'm really excited about, and I know the regulars probably already know about this, but the Total Fitness Bodybuilding podcast that I've been doing with my co-host, Jeff Samatero, has been going over really well. And in the description below this video, I have links to the Total Fitness Bodybuilding podcast. So obviously you can check it out on YouTube. It's listed under YouTube podcasts. We're also over on Spotify, so you can watch us there, listen to us there. You can watch it on YouTube. You can listen to it over on Spotify. You can listen to it on iTunes. And we also got it listed on Amazon Podcast as well, on the Audible podcast platform. So whatever podcast platform you use, I know those are some of the major ones. Hopefully that's suitable, and you'll be able to tune into the Total Fitness Bodybuilding podcast every Tuesday morning at 11 a.m. Eastern Time. We post up a brand new episode, and the feedback thus far has been really good. You know, a lot of people are enjoying the podcast, and I enjoy that synergistic effect where, you know, having different people join on. Like last week's podcast had a bunch of different guys from the Muscle After 40 Blueprint Coaching Program, and we did a whole fat loss masterclass. But normally it's myself and Jeff Samatero, who's one of my top coaching students, who's gone through the Muscle After 40 Blueprint. And now he's helping out behind the scenes with the program. He's helping coach other guys. And of course, he's also helped me out with the podcast. And I'm really enjoying it. And it's a great way to just add more value, have an ongoing discussion, and really lay out some practical real world strategies for everyday health and fitness. And what I mean by that is there's a difference between health and fitness from a professional athlete or a competitive athlete point of view versus the regular everyday Joe point of view. And I like to focus more on the regular everyday Joe because that's the category that I fall into. Working professionals, family men, people who have a lot of responsibilities on their plate, but still want to take care of their health and fitness in the process, right? It's different if you're a full-time athlete, right? Or you're a professional and okay, you've got endless hours to do this, and this is what you do for a living, right? And this is where it can sometimes get confusing when you're watching fitness information and following influencers and some of your favorite fitness personalities, if you will, whether they're bodybuilders or athletes or whatever. A lot of times they're talking about training for professional athletes or people who are dedicating literally hours a day to this. Their whole life is centered around becoming the best version of themselves in their chosen sport or activity, whether it's bodybuilding or athletics or whatever. And most people are not like that. You have a career outside of this, your day-to-day job that you're doing. You got your family, you got all these other priorities and other responsibilities, but you still want to fit in fitness on the side so that you don't suffer the consequences. You don't suffer from the health issues and overweight and health problems and high blood pressure and high cholesterol and going down the road of diabetes and stroke and heart disease and all those type of things. You want to be able to do the things you want to do, live life to the fullest without having your body holding you back. And that's what we really focus on within the whole Total Fitness Bodybuilding podcast. And that's what we try to focus on, of course, within our Muscle After 40 Blueprint coaching program as well, is really practical advice for everyday guys who want to maximize their health and fitness and are not full-time athletes. Because there is a difference. I can relate to a little bit to back in my bodybuilding days, even though I wasn't a professional bodybuilder, but I basically trained like one. I dedicated, my life was surrounded by just getting ready for bodybuilding competitions when I went into contest prep mode, right? Put the blinders on, everything was just focused around getting ready for that competition. And I kind of like pushed everything else to the wayside. Now, when you're single and you have no kids and a lot of time on your hands, you can make that work. But when you have other responsibilities, it doesn't always happen. And unfortunately, most people have the all or nothing trap, right? Where if I can't be all in, then screw it. There's nothing. And we want to find a in between. We want to find that balance where you're good enough and good enough consistently so that you can still find a way to have that healthy balance, that work-life balance of fitness life balance, if you will. So that's what we really focus on here. And I hope to share some strategies and practical action steps for you. So if you have anything that you would like to discuss, any questions, topics of discussion, anything at all, feel free to type those questions and topics of discussion into our chat. I know a lot of people are typing stuff in there now. But while you're doing that, typing in anything that you would like to discuss, I have a couple questions that were sent in advanced from some of our followers, and I just want to address these quickly here. One of our followers sent me this through Facebook, and I said it'd be a great question to discuss during our live Q&A. This was from Lee. All right, we have a few Lees joining us here, but this is a different Lee. He says, I was at a seminar at my local gym recently, and they had a nutritionist speak, and she brought in donuts for everybody. She said that a calorie was just a calorie as long as you hit your macros. And I waited until afterwards to talk to her about it when everyone had left because I didn't want to get into a debate during her seminar. And she said she was steadfast on her opinion. So I asked her, would she ask someone to go out for drinks after to celebrate being sober? So I totally get where you're coming from there. And she said, of course not. So I said, that's what you're doing if you're advising someone to eat all the sweets they want just to get their macros. Some people are addicted to food, so they need to structure their eating, and they're emotional eaters and can be very easily derailed. And she thanked me for my input. Not sure if I changed her opinion, but what do you think about this? All right, that's a great question and something I do want to address there. The idea is a calorie just a calorie? And it's not. All right, well, let's just be right up front and frank. Calories are just a unit of measure that we use, but it's not the be-all, end-all. I mean, calories are actually measures of heat. Like how they actually determine calories is how a calorie is the unit of energy needed to elevate water, right? So what is, I think is 1 calorie elevates a milliliter of water by 1 degree or something like that. I'll have to double check exactly the portions, but basically it's just a measure of heat. So it's like how much heat is generated from a certain food. Like if you were to burn that food, how much heat would that release? And yes, we use it as a tool for measuring, calories in, calories out, that type of thing. But it's not an exact science when it enters your body, because we're not literally burning calories as in lighting them a fire and burning them. We're utilizing them to energize and fuel and nourish our body. And food has different caloric values and different nutritional values. So like if you had 100 calories from donuts versus 100 calories from lean meat versus 100 calories of vegetables versus 100 calories from nuts or anything, like it's going to have a different impact and different result on your body. So calories are not all equal. Now, with that being said, the whole idea, if you're trying to lose weight, does calories matter? Absolutely. Because even if you overate healthy food, you could still gain weight or at least not lose weight. That is fundamental. So you do need to keep calories in check, but food quality is the next major thing that you want to focus on. And I like to look at nutrition like a pyramid, right? So like if we had a pyramid, the base of that pyramid, the bottom layer would be calories, like meaning calories in, calories out from a body weight change point of view. So like if you want to gain weight, you need to be in a calorie surplus, right? Regardless of how healthy you eat, regardless of how much protein you eat, if you're in a calorie deficit, you're not gaining weight. Vice versa, if you're trying to lose weight, which I know a lot of people are, if you're in a calorie surplus or calorie maintenance, you're not losing weight, regardless of how healthy it is. Vice versa, even if you were eating junk food, but you were in a calorie deficit, you could still lose weight. And that was proven back in 2010 when university professor Mark Hobb did the Twinkie diet experiment. Those of you who've been around the fitness industry and been following things for a while, you probably remember that one. And if you haven't heard of it before, just do a Google search for the Twinkie diet. I mean, it went viral. It was all over the major news stations, and it really created a big stir in the whole fitness community that you could actually lose weight eating junk food. And I think that's probably where this nutritionist is kind of going with it. Bringing in the donuts and saying, hey, as long as you hit your calories and macros, you can still lose weight. Yes, to a degree, but it's not a practical solution long term. Because first off, if you're getting your calories from processed junk food, i.e. donuts or Twinkies or anything along those lines, it's high in calories, but it's very low in nutritional value. So the reward that you're getting in terms of nutritional reward doesn't match the caloric intake that you're consuming. You'd be much better off consuming more natural unprocessed foods, which are lower in calorie density, but higher in nutritional density. Vitamins and minerals and protein and essential fatty acids and all the things that your body needs. So that's why we always try to prioritize natural foods versus the processed ones. And another thing you got to look at too is when it comes to the whole calories and macros, the original idea behind the if it fits your macros diet wasn't, okay, let's eat donuts and drink protein shakes, and as long as we're getting our protein from protein shakes and getting our carbs from donuts, we're good. It wasn't along those lines at all. The original if it fits your macros template came about when people were creating meal plans, especially like bodybuilding diet meal plans, and they were very strict. It might have been like, okay, you have chicken, rice, and broccoli, and that's your meals. And then people say, well, man, I'm getting sick of eating chicken. I'm getting sick of eating rice. I'm getting sick of eating broccoli. Can I eat something else? Yeah, okay, well, you can swap out that chicken for lean meat, or you can swap out that for fish or turkey or some other source of protein, as long as it fits the macros. So like, let's just say you were getting 40 grams of protein from chicken breast. You could swap that out and get 40 grams of protein from an equivalent protein source. As long as it fit your macros, you could make that swap. But I mean, it wasn't swapping out, chicken breasts for protein shakes or whatever. It was swapping it out for another similar food source. Same when it came to the carbohydrates. Let's say you didn't want to have rice for every single meal, but you were getting, say, 50 grams of carbohydrates from rice. Well, if you were getting sick of rice or you didn't want to have it, or maybe you have some sort of intolerance where you can't consume rice, hey, we could swap it out with 50 grams of carbohydrates from potatoes or from oatmeal or from some other similar carbohydrate source, some other type of complex carbohydrate. As long as it fit your macros, you could make that swap. But it wasn't like, hey, let's have 50 grams of carbs and we'll swap it for 50 grams of Pop-Tarts. Like it wasn't that kind of a mentality. It was designed to swap out healthy food options as long as it fit your macros. These were okay swaps. And then, of course, people kind of took it to the extreme and thinking, well, as long as it fits your macros, it can work. And to a degree, it does. Like if you're keeping things in control, but it's not optimizing nutrition. Because again, the way your body processes and digests food, processed foods get absorbed much different than unprocessed foods. Like you have the fiber and the roughage in there and all that stuff. Like, for example, if you eat sugar, pure table sugar, for example, that gets rapidly absorbed, that gets fully absorbed into your system. It's going to have a bigger blood sugar spike than if you had a more natural unprocessed carbohydrate like oatmeal. Like if you had 50 grams of table sugar or 50 grams of oatmeal, going to have a totally different response in the body. And you're not actually going to absorb all the calories from the oatmeal as you would from the sugar. Like, because the fiber in the oatmeal is actually going to slow the digestion. Some of it's actually going to pass through undigested. And whereas the sugar, it's going to get all absorbed and all digested. So it's going to have a different impact on your body, different impact on your blood sugar and everything else. So it's not calories are equal across the board. Food sources make a big difference. And that's why when I'm helping people with their nutrition, we always focus on the natural unprocessed foods most of the time. Now, I'm not saying you can't have the occasional treat meal and enjoy yourself from time to time, but we want to keep that to a minimum and at least 80 to 90% of the time focusing on those natural unprocessed foods that are going to fuel and nourish your body on the cellular level and keeping those not so good foods to a minimum, right? They're there. I mean, it doesn't. And how you manage it really depends on you and your personality. Like I know some people do have an addictive personality and it's better to just avoid those foods altogether than try and manage them. And I can certainly relate to that. Like when I'm pushing for aggressive fat loss, there are certain foods that I will not have in the house because it's just easier to not eat them versus manage them. And I'll give you an example. One for like peanut butter. I love peanut butter, but it's so calorie dense and it's easier for me to simply not eat peanut butter than it is to manage peanut butter. Because when I do eat peanut butter, I tend to eat a lot of it because I just enjoy it. For me to like literally measure out a level teaspoon of peanut butter and count that as my serving is like, man, that's such a small amount. It's like I'm whetting my appetite with the taste of peanut butter, but it's not enough. So it's just easier for me to just say, I'm not even going to bother with it. All right. When I'm really trying to push for aggressive fat loss, I won't even have that type of food. And I do that with a lot of different foods. I'm just using peanut butter as an example because it's certainly one of my trigger foods. But you have to use your own judgment on that. Like some of my coaching students, they do manage it. And I see them scrape a very thin layer of peanut butter across their sprouted grain bread. And they enjoy it. They stay within their calorie and macro totals. And they can still make it work. For me, I just rather not have it at all because I find that taste is enough to trigger me to want to eat more, right? Another one for me is like nuts and things like that, almonds and walnuts and cashews and peanuts and all this kind of stuff. I'd rather just not have them than to try and limit myself to just, counting out my small serving of nuts. Because if I'm eating them, I like to just grab a handful and chow down and probably grab another handful and chow down. And it's a trigger food and it's something that I can easily overeat. Another one, potato chips, right? It's so easy to overeat potato chips. So I'd rather just not have them than try and manage the portions and keep it in check. And that's one of the things you got to look at when it comes to processed food versus natural food. It's easier to manage natural food because you don't have that desire, that temptation to overeat on it. Like nobody goes on an apple binge where they just buy a 5-pound bag of apples and they say, oh man, I couldn't stop. I just ended up eating the whole bag. Like, no, maybe you eat one apple. If you eat 2 apples, then after like you're sick of apples, maybe you could force down a third one. But after that, it's like, man, I'm sick of apples. I don't want to eat anymore. But if it came to cookies or potato chips or donuts or anything like that, you eat one and, you can very easily go back for another. Like there was an old potato chip ad that used to come on TV saying, I bet you just can't eat one. And it was absolutely right. Like nobody can stop at one potato chip, right? You eat one potato chip and it makes you want to eat another one and another one. And next thing you know, you eat the whole darn bag and you're not even full, right? Even though you consumed a ton of calories, you don't even feel full because those calories are not satiating. Whereas natural unprocessed foods are satiating. They fill you up. They like have a natural built-in portion control in there. Right? You just can't endlessly eat those things. Right? People don't endlessly eat bowls of oatmeal or endlessly eat, baked chicken breasts or endlessly eat apples or endlessly eat, bags of kale or any of that stuff. Like you have a limit to how much you can physically tolerate before your body just says, I've had enough, I'm full. But when it comes to processed foods, it's not like that because they've been chemically engineered to be palatable and have that perfect combination of taste and flavor and crunch and texture and everything else that you just want to keep eating more, because that's what keeps these companies in business. The more junk food you eat, the more money they make, the more fatter you get, and the more you want. And it's a negative spiral, but it fattens their pocketbook and fattens your waistline in the process. Whereas the natural foods don't have those same effects. So I'm glad Lee brought that question up because it's a very powerful one, right? I mean, there's a lot of debate and confusion around this whole topic. Some people think, well, as long as I'm keeping my calories and macros in check, you can make it work. And to a degree, technically you can, but it's so much easier to keep your calories and macros in check when you're doing it with the proper foods. And then not only is it easier, it's also more nourishing and healthier for your body as well. All right. What other questions do we have there? Let's see. I know there's probably some questions coming through here from the live stream, so I'll jump in and answer some. Let's see. We've got Brian joining in saying, hey, buddy, I lost 6 pounds from working out a lot in the sun, moving furniture, and need to keep my calories up this summer. What's your best advice? All right. In that situation, I mean, I know Brian. I mean, we're friends on Facebook and we follow along. Like, Brian's very lean. Like, he's walking around with visible abdominal definition year round. So he is a very lean individual, and he wants to keep the calorie intake high. And I know for a lot of people, it's the complete opposite, right? They want to lose weight and wondering, how can I restrict calories? But for those of you who are trying to gain muscular body weight and you actually have challenge eating enough, it's just as challenging to purposely eat to gain quality muscular body weight as it is to eat to lose body fat, right? It's just as challenging. It's a different challenge, but it's from a level of difficulty, it's just as difficult to gain quality mass as it is to lose fat mass, right? So I can certainly appreciate where he's coming from here. One thing that I would recommend, this is the situation where you can incorporate some of those higher calorie dense foods. Like I mentioned, like peanut butter, nuts, those are some good options to get some extra calories in because they're very calorie dense. They're very easy to eat, and they add a lot of not a lot of volume, but they add a lot of calorie density for the volume. So that's something you can add to your foods, right? Another thing, you can choose higher fat protein sources. So if you want to have more red meat or maybe even some dark meat for your poultry, some fattier fish, like instead of having white fish, have salmon, things like that to get some of those extra quality fats in your diet. And fat is the most calorie macronutrient, or most calorie dense macronutrient. I mean, 9 calories per gram versus 4 calories per gram for protein and carbs. So the easiest way to bump up those calories is just to bump up your fat intake. And like you could eat similar portions, but just having higher fat variations. For example, instead of having chicken breast, have steak, or instead of having, like I said, the white fish, have some salmon or some other similar type of fish. Those are some easy ways to instantly bump up your calories to keep you in that calorie maintenance, or even if you want a slight surplus so that you can gain some quality mass. But that will certainly help. Another one that you really want to focus on as well is hydrating yourself. Right? If you're out in the sun and you're working a lot and doing physical labor outside, nourishing yourself and keeping yourself hydrated. And this is where adequate fluids, adequate electrolytes, even mixing up, like if you're doing a day's work outside, mix up a water bottle the same as if you were going to the gym. Like when I go to the gym, right, and I got my water bottle and I mix it up, I'll put amino acids in with that water bottle. I'll put salt in with it so I get some sodium for electrolytes. And if it's a really hard workout, or like I'm going for a big bike ride or something like that, I will put carbohydrate powder in there as well. Something like maltodextrin or something along those lines to give me some extra carbohydrates to fuel that workout or to fuel that bike ride or whatever it is I'm doing. You could probably look into doing something similar as well, just in your water bottles, and that would help to keep your calories up and keep your glycogen levels topped up so that you have the energy to not only gain lean muscle mass, but to also fuel your workouts as well. So those are some strategies you can use. But I wouldn't use it as an excuse to say, oh, hey, go eat burgers and fries and pizza and ice cream. And no, do not go the dirty bulk route, right? You'll gain weight, all right, but it's not quality weight, right? We want to still keep it lean and clean, right? We don't want to just use it as an excuse to eat whatever you want. All right, let's see what else we got there. What's Adam saying? Also on Pocket Casts. Good stuff. Is that a podcast platform? Pocket Casts? I've never heard of that one before myself. I'll have to look into that one. Interesting. I'm assuming that's what you mean. You're referring back to the when I was talking about the Total Fitness Bodybuilding podcast. I'll have to check that out. I know there's a ton of podcast platforms. I mean, I'll try and get it on the majority of them, if you will. I know the big ones. Obviously, YouTube is huge. iTunes, Spotify, Amazon. But if you have another podcast platform that you use and you would like to see the Total Fitness Bodybuilding podcast on it, let me know. Right? You can either email me or Facebook Messenger me. Again, my contact information is down below. I'm open to suggestions about the Total Fitness Bodybuilding podcast, as well as topics of discussion. Like if there's any particular topics that you would like to see covered in future episodes, let me know. I mean, obviously these podcasts are geared towards helping you. So if there's something that you would like to see, something you'd like to learn more about, feel free to let me know. I'm certainly open to suggestions and feedback about that. We have Ahmad joining in. Welcome. Glad to have you. Says, I squat 15 reps body weight. I squat 15 reps body squats as a beginner. How to stretch after squats. First off, congrats on starting, right? And congrats on being here. Everyone has to start somewhere. And I'm glad that you're actually aware that, hey, stretching is an important part of the whole fitness process, right? We want strength training, we want cardio, and we also want stretching, flexibility, and mobility. Like we want all those different aspects. And I actually have a full leg stretching video and a full stretching playlist that's up on the Total Fitness Bodybuilding YouTube channel. So if you just head on over to the Total Fitness Bodybuilding YouTube channel and open up the playlist tab, you'll scroll through and there's a stretching routine. But what I'll do, I can actually share the, where is it? I'm just going to find it for us real quick. I'll share the specific video that I'm referring to here now, the leg stretching video, and I'll share that link for you so you can go check it out right after the show. Where's it to? There's a lot of playlists there. if I'm having trouble finding it on my own channel, I know, that's why I want to share it for you. If you go through, I mean, you just take your time and find it there, which is what I'm trying to do, actually. Okay, it's called Bodybuilding Stretching Routine. There's a full playlist, and it's actually the second video in the playlist. It's called Good Leg Stretching Exercises. That's the title of the video. So just a second. Now I'm going to give you that link, and you can check that out. Copy and paste it into our chat. All right. Just give me a moment there. This is for you, Ahmad. Leg stretching video. Boom. There we go. So you can check that out. And again, on the playlist tab, there's stretching. There's videos for chest stretches and back stretches and arm stretches. Like there's a whole stretching playlist. And the idea behind that playlist is to show you some simple stretches that you can do after your workouts. So the idea is like after you train a muscle group, you want to take a few minutes to stretch out that muscle group. And that's going to help to aid with recovery. It's going to help to improve your flexibility and mobility. And it's also going to help to minimize the risk of injury as well. So it's a very complementary way to finish off a workout is stretch after your workouts. And I want to emphasize after, not before, because when it comes to doing static stretches and more extreme stretching, you want to do that after your muscles are fully warmed up and pumped not when they're cold. Like the old outdated way of doing things, like people used to stretch before their workout thinking, oh, it's a good warm up. You know, I'm going to stretch and loosen everything up. That's not the way to go about it. You want to do some cardio or some gentle exercises and like warm up sets and all that kind of stuff beforehand to pump blood and to warm up the muscle, but you don't want to physically stretch it, because stretching a cold muscle, you're more likely to tear it, right? You want to warm up the muscles, and the best time to stretch is right after your workouts, when you're already pumped full of blood, your body is fully warmed up. That way the muscles are going to stretch versus tear. And you'll get much better bang for your buck from the stretching if you do it post-workout versus if you do it before. We have Alex joining in. Welcome. Glad to have you. How to stretch after deadlifts. Again, check out that stretching playlist. That covers stretching exercises for all your major muscle groups. I would incorporate the back stretching exercises after that one. Even though squats and deadlifts, they're very similar exercises. And what I mean by similar is they work the same major muscle groups. Now, deadlifts is going to place a bit more emphasis on the back. Squats are going to place a bit more emphasis on the legs. But when you deadlift, you're working your back, your hips, your glutes, your hamstrings. You know, those are the big major movers. When you squat, you're still working your back, your hips, your glutes, your hamstrings, also working your quads. So they're very similar. They're very complementary. And like a lot of power lifters, for example, when they're training, they will pair up squat and deadlift in the same session, right? They'll do those exercises because they're complementary muscle groups, right? So with the stretches, like there's going to be some carryover from the stretches that you would do post leg workout as well as post back workout. There's going to be some carryover there, some similarities. Jason's joining in. He says, yeah, calories are calories, but there is nothing wrong with eating one donut. The problem is I can eat 5 or 6 of them in 5 minutes. That's exactly what I was going back to when I said the portion control. That's the problem. And if it's a trigger food and you can't control yourself, it may be better to avoid it or drastically limit it because that is the kicker, right? You could eat 5 or 6 donuts in 5 minutes, but like, could you eat 5 or 6 chicken breasts in 5 minutes? Or could you eat 5 or 6 apples in 5 minutes? Or 5 or 6 whatever, like 5 or 6 baked potatoes in 5 minutes? Like, probably not. Most people can't. Now, I know there's always going to be exceptions to the rules, and someone's going to be like some crazy competitive eater, and you know, yeah, I can eat 5 pounds of apples in 5 minutes. Like, okay, but the average person is not going to do that. But they can certainly eat 5 donuts. I totally get that. We have Jeff joining in. Said, not fitness related, but I started watching your channel a few years ago when you bought the Camaro and drove on Route 66. Would you do it again? Route 66. I love that. That, for those of you who are not familiar with this, back in 2011, my wife and I, we bought a Camaro. We actually bought it down in Las Vegas. This was back when the new 5th generation Camaro came out. So we bought one down in Las Vegas, and then we headed straight to California, rode out on the Santa Monica Pier with the Camaro, and then headed back Route 66 and did the entire Route 66 in reverse, because traditionally Route 66 went from Chicago to California. We did it in reverse. And I don't know if I have the book with me here anywhere. I don't think it's on my shelf, but I bought a guide. It's called the Route 66 Guide, and it literally, it's a handbook showing you the entire Route 66, you know, because when you're going through cities, like you're going through Los Angeles and stuff like that, the old Route 66 is, you know, blended in with the city, so you don't know exactly where it is. But this guidebook says, hey, go down this street, go down that street, you know, and it tells you where the original route was. And then, of course, once you start to get out into the rural areas, you're actually on the old Route 66. And I'll just give you a heads up for anybody that's going to do it. The tarmac on the old Route 66 in a lot of places is crap because it's not maintained. It's just worn away. Like the top layer is really rough. So there were sections there where we were literally just crawling along. It almost felt like driving down a gravel road. That's how it felt sometimes. But it was the most fun road trip. And I mean, it feels like you're out in the wild, wild west. Literally, like you're going through these old ghost towns along Route 66. And of course, then you come along some old towns that are still there, I guess, from the tourist perspective of it all. But I absolutely love that road trip. That was the most fun. And we took our time, like we gave ourselves a full month to do it. Right. So we weren't in a rush. Like some days we'd literally drive for 100 miles and stop, like that was it. Or other days we might drive for 200 or 300 miles, right? It all depended on the schedule. And then we stopped along the way. Sometimes we'd spend a couple nights in a certain area if we really liked it. But we had lots of time, so we could just totally enjoy it and didn't feel rushed. And it was the most fun road trip. I mean, obviously we did it in the Camaro, but I'd do it in any vehicle. If you want a cool road trip to do, I'd certainly recommend it. I tell you what I would love to do. I'd love to do that on bicycle. That would be quite the bike trip. All right, to do Route 66 like that. Who knows? Might be on the bucket list. All right, who else we got joining in there? We have TS joining in. Appreciate the support. Thanks for joining in. It says, update, 13-week streak. I can now do 5x5s on chin-ups. Excellent. I mean, that's 25 total chin-ups. That's respectable. What I would recommend is keep building up the volume of sets. And I was actually having a chat with one of my coaching students today talking about building up your chin-up / pull-up strength. And the best way to get better at body weight exercises like chin-ups and pull-ups is to do multiple sets of low reps. So stopping short of failure and doing multiple sets. Because the way most people go about it, like when they do pull-ups or push-ups or anything, chin-ups, like when I say pull-ups and chin-ups, I kind of use them interchangeably because it's the same exercise, just a different grip, right? Overhand is technically a pull-up, underhand is a chin-up. But when I'm doing them, like I'll vary it up. Like I'll probably do a overhand, underhand, parallel, wide, narrow, and if some of these pull-up bars, chin-up bars at a lot of gyms, they got multiple handles that you can grab onto to hit different angles. So I'll experiment with them all. I mean, it's not like one is right or wrong, good or bad. It's just they all hit the back and biceps and all these supporting muscles from different angles. So I'll incorporate all the different variations. But bottom line, multiple sets of low reps, one of the best ways to increase the total volume. Whereas most people, when they're doing body weight exercises, they'll bang out as many reps as they can to failure on their first set. And then you're fried and you got nothing left in the tank for future sets. But if you pace it out and stop short of failure, it's amazing how much more you can do, right? Because you're literally spacing it out over the course of your workout. I mean, like one of the ways that I would increase my pull-ups is I would do a set of pull-ups in between each exercise. So like start off the workout, bang out a set of pull-ups, maybe do 5 reps. And then I do my first exercise. And then in between that exercise and the next one, I go over to the pull-up bar again, do another set. And then in between each exercise, 5 reps of pull-ups. And over the course of the workout, depending on how many exercises I did, I might get 50 total pull-ups done, right? But I could do that because I spaced it out. Whereas if I tried to do 50 total pull-ups all in a single go, there's no way in heck I could do that many. But by spacing it out, I could get that volume in there. So if you're looking to bump up the volume, that's a great strategy. And it's one of the best exercises you can do. Because when you get better at body weight exercises, push-ups and pull-ups and dips and all that kind of stuff, your body's just going to respond. They're very effective exercises. All right, what else we got there? Let's see. Alex is saying, what are your thoughts on rest pause training? I used to think they were a gimmick, but I've implemented them into my training, and I've learned that they are very effective even for an older lifter. Rest pause is an advanced training technique, and it's certainly something you can use to increase your volume, increase your intensity, and absolutely. I mean, I incorporate it in my workouts now, and all it is, it's basically you do a set till the point where your form starts to break down, and then you just pause, take a little mini rest break, and then complete a few extra repetitions, right? Like, let's just say, for example, they work better for isolation exercises and machine exercises more so than big, heavy compound exercises. Like I wouldn't do rest pause with deadlifts or squats or military press or something like that, but I would do it for like bicep curls or leg extensions or pull downs or chest press machine, or machine exercises works really well for this. And of course, isolation exercises as well. Exercises where the risk of injury is very low and the setup for the exercise is very easy. Like on racking a heavy squat, walking out with it, and then re-racking it and that's a lot of effort. Where that's why it's not practical for a rest pause. But for something like bicep curls, where you just literally like lay the dumbbells or barbell down and complete it, it's very easy to do in those situations. Of course, machine exercises where you just lay the weight stack down and then do extra reps is easier as well. But you literally just do a set. Once your form starts to break down, where you're starting to struggle and your form breaks down, just put the weight down, rest for 10 to 15 seconds. The way I usually do it, I'll take 10 deep breaths. So I'll do that 10 times, however long that is. It's probably more than 10 seconds when you add it up, but I just take 10 deep breaths. That's how I count it, because I don't actually break out a stopwatch. And then I'll grab the weight, and I'll probably be able to bang out another 3 or 4 repetitions with good form. So it's a way to extend the set and do so in a safe fashion. Right, so it's just adding extra volume, extra intensity to your training, and it's relatively safe, and it's a great way to just step it up to the next level. Now, I would save it for advanced lifters, because for beginners or intermediates, just going to positive failure, where the point where your form starts to break down, that's intense enough, right? You don't need to overkill it, right? You just need to stimulate, not annihilate. But as you build up your work capacity, as you build up your fitness level, and you want to push it beyond, that initial beginner phase, rest pause is a great strategy to use. But again, it doesn't work for every exercise, but isolation and machine exercises, it works really well. Let's see what else we got. Lee Dunnigan says, does training and stretching calves strengthen the Achilles tendon? I sometimes get a bit of tightness in my Achilles. It's certainly going to help. Yeah, I mean, I believe the combination of strength training under heavy resistance as well as the stretching is going to be the best for the joints, tendons, and ligaments, because it's going to take them through that full range of motion. Plus, you're also stressing them with heavy load, right? So that's like the combination of that is a great way to strengthen not just your Achilles, but all the major muscles, joints, tendons, and ligaments of the body, right? This is another reason why you want to complement your strength training workouts with stretching, right? Like I mentioned before, I always finish off my strength training workouts with a few minutes of stretching, and it doesn't have to be much, like literally 5 minutes, like when you make the trip to the gym, like what's an extra 5 minutes in the greater scheme of things? Like you took the time to get there, like you packed up your gym bag, you drove to the gym, you got in there, you did your workout. Like, come on, are you going to shortchange it at 5 minutes? Of course not, right? An extra 5 minutes is all it takes to stretch out the muscles that you just trained, and it will pay off in such big dividends in benefits down the road. Not only from improving your flexibility and mobility, helping to aid with recovery, but it's going to help to strengthen those joints, tendons, and ligaments as well. So it's a great complementary mix. And that's the best time to do it. Like after you do some calf work, do some stretching for your calves and your Achilles, right? And this one is very easy. Like you can literally do it while you're doing your calf training. Like after you've trained your calves, whatever it is, standing calf raises, seated calf raises, or whatever, you can literally just do the stretching there with the machine. And what I'd recommend is lighten up the weight, because you want to use a moderate weight, or even just body weight in some cases is fine, and go through that full range of motion and get a full deep stretch. If you try and stretch with heavy weight, like let's just say you were doing calf raises and you had 100 kilos on the calf raise machine, right? I don't know, maybe you can do more, maybe you do less, but I'm just using this as an example. When you have weighted stretching, it actually causes your body to tense up. It's almost like a survival mechanism where your body will naturally tense up, and it won't allow you to get as deep of a stretch as if you had a lighter weight or even just your body weight. Because when it's a lighter resistance, your body's more relaxed, and it'll actually allow you to get into a deeper stretch that way. So I'm not a huge fan of stretching with weights, or at least heavy weights. Like there is some situations where lightweight stretching can be advantageous, but I'm not a fan of heavyweight stretching because it actually causes your body to tense up. And then, of course, there's more risk of injury as well, especially if you have heavy load there. So for this, I would recommend doing your calf work with your normal working weight, and then afterwards doing some lightweight calf stretching. You could literally use the standing calf raise or seated calf raise machine with a light weight on the stack. just hold that fully stretched position in the bottom. Hold it for about 30 seconds at a time for each static stretch. And that'd be a great way to stretch out the calves and, of course, stretch out the tendons and ligaments in the ankles. All right, what else we got there? Ooh. Okay, Adam was going back to talking about the podcast platform. He says, what was it? I'm just going back to his question or his comment. Podcaskets. Pocket casts. Podcaskets. Jesus. Right? Right? The podcast for funeral home directors. Podcaskets. I don't know. Pocket casts. There we go. Pocket casts. I'll have to check it out. I've never heard of it before. And he was saying, as comments down here, it has most of the podcasts you could find anywhere. So maybe pocket casts, it might accumulate podcasts from other platforms and stream them there as well. I'll have to do a search. Like maybe they've already uploaded the Total Fitness Bodybuilding podcast, because the way podcasts work, as long as you put in the RSS feed, it'll upload and stream the podcast. So maybe they already have it. I'll have to look into it. This is a totally new world for me. For years, I've been in the back of my mind saying, I want to create a podcast, but it's too much work, and I don't know. And I was procrastinating and playing all these mind games. I'll get around to it later. And then finally, I just said, screw it. Just do it. Figure it out as I go. I'm take imperfect action. And that's what I've done. I've just said, I'm not going to wait until everything's perfect. We'll just dive in and figure it out as we go. Right? We'll get better as we go. I know sometimes the audio quality is not the greatest, or the video quality is not the greatest, or whatever, but who cares, right? The content is there anyway. And we can always make it better as we go, but start now. And that's a good philosophy to have for your fitness, because I know a lot of people are procrastinating when it comes to their workouts, thinking, well, I need to have the perfect program, and I need to have the perfect diet, and I need to make sure that I don't have anything on my schedule, and I got all this free time. And once everything is great and all my ducks are lined in a row, then I'm going to start that fitness program. Then I'm going to start that nutrition plan and whatever. It's never going to be perfect. There's always going to be shit hitting the fan. There's always going to be challenges and obstacles and excuses. Just start now. Give yourself permission to take imperfect action and figure it out as you go, right? Even if it's not great, something's better than nothing, and you can always make it better as you progress. And that's the way that's my action plan now for the podcast. So I'm going to figure it out as I go and make it better. So hopefully, by this time next year, it will be a lot better of a quality podcast than it is now. But at least we're starting somewhere. We're starting now versus this, mental excuse of, I got to wait till it's perfect before I start. It's never going to be perfect. Just start now. All right. What else we got there? RM says, hey, Lee, love your videos and consider myself a fan. Appreciate that. Says, do you log what you lift, or do you go by how you feel for the day? Sometimes I think chasing numbers can be overrated and has its limits. That's a good question. It's another follow-up here. He says, I love your philosophy of weight training one day and cardio the next two. I also love to bicycle and find it complements the weight training. Awesome. Good stuff. All right. I'm going back to this here. Logging the workouts. As with a lot of things, it can vary depending on the situation, the level that you're at, the individual, blah, 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 blah. And I'm going to share how the process unfolds. When someone is starting off, I absolutely recommend logging your workouts, right? Get a notebook, get an app, or whatever it is that you want to use. There's a gazillion training apps. Even for our Muscle After 40 Blueprint program, we have a custom workout training app that I use to set up the workouts for my coaching students. So when someone comes on board, first off, we do our onboarding call where we have a chat to discuss, okay, what do you have for exercise equipment? Are you going to a commercial gym? Do you have a home gym? What do you have available for exercise equipment? And I find out that. Then I find out, okay, their body situation. What kind of shape are you in? Do you have any injuries or mobility issues? Is there any exercises that you can't do, or things that you really don't like doing because they just don't feel right for your body? Find out what they can and can't do. And then what's your schedule like? I get all the details from people, and then I put together a customized program for them. And then I upload that program into our coaching app. So then people can go to the gym with their phone. They got everything outlined for them on their coaching app. So when they go in the door, all the exercises, sets, reps, everything they need to do is outlined for them. And they literally just check it off in the app. And then the cool thing is this, I can log into their account from my computer, and then I can see exactly what they did. So for example, when John goes to the gym and does his workout, I have a record of it on my end, and I can say, okay, John did his workout today, and I can go in and review it and give him constructive feedback and analyze and stuff, and follow along with his progress in real time. And vice versa, if John doesn't do his workout, then I can follow up and say, hey, John, you were supposed to work out today. What's on the go? Right? Give him a gentle nudge to, ensure that he's following through on what he says he's going to do. Give him a bit of accountability. So it's a very powerful tool. And for people who are new to working out, I absolutely recommend tracking your workouts. And not only from the accountability point of view and having open flow communication like with me and my coaching students, but we can use it for tracking your progress, because in the initial phases, you're going to make rapid progress. Like the strength is going to increase on a regular basis. Usually every week or two, you're going to see noticeable changes in strength, meaning maybe you add an extra 5 pounds, maybe you add an extra repetition, you'll be able to do more sets, like something along those lines. You're going to see some form of progressive overload very quickly early on. And we want to track that, because when it comes to your fitness journey, the initial change is not going to be as visible in the physical as it will be in the strength. So like you'll get stronger before you get bigger. And what I mean by this, even though like a bigger muscle is a stronger muscle and vice versa, you will see the strength gains more faster than you'll see the physical changes. Like you'll be able to see, hey, I added an extra 5 pounds to my bench press, or I got an extra repetition on my pull-ups or whatever. You'll see that faster and easier than, hey, I'm looking more jacked in the mirror, right? My abs are looking sharper. Like that stuff takes time to unfold and to reveal. But the strength gains, they're measurable. They're numbers. You can actually see, okay, I did 10 reps of push-ups yesterday and I did 11 reps today. That's progress, right? I can see that incremental progress, and it's easy to track and measure. And it's good to do that from a motivational point of view, as well as ensuring that what you're doing is actually working. So I absolutely recommend logging your workouts initially. Once you've been doing this for a while, and when I say a while, I'm talking years. And you've been doing this training in a progressive overload fashion for years. Sometimes you can take more of an instinctive approach, because not every day you're going to feel strong and able to maximize or to perform at your physical best. Like in my situation now, I mean, I've been doing this for over 30 years. Like I've hit my peak in terms of strength, back in my competitive bodybuilding and powerlifting days. Now I'm focusing on other aspects of fitness, more so in endurance training with competitive cycling that I've gotten into. But I listen to my body and I adjust it. Like if I don't feel physically strong, then I'm not going to go in there and try and beat a personal best. Like if I don't feel up to it that day, then I'll give myself permission to go in and do an easier workout. And this is where it's okay to like let go of the logbook and realize it's okay to do an easy workout from time to time. Like it doesn't always have to be better than it was before. It doesn't always have to be progressive overload. Simply laying that foundation and being consistent is more important than just pure intensity. So I'm very flexible now at this stage of the game, because I have that years of experience and I know how to listen to my body, and I'm in tune. So I know when to push it and know when to back off. But for people who are early on and they don't have that acuity with their body, it's good to follow a set plan. Let the plan dictate what you're going to do. Now, even then, I mean, if somebody had like a really poor night's sleep, or, they don't feel well rested or recovered, or they're extra sore, we can scale things back. But generally speaking, we like to go by the guide. We like to follow the plan to the T as often as possible and do that early on. But as you get more advanced, sometimes, as you mentioned in your question there, chasing the numbers can be overrated and have its limits. And it does, absolutely. There comes a point where you cross that threshold where you have to be more instinctive and more in tune with your body and respond based in how you're feeling in real time versus just chasing a set number. Like, okay, program says I should be doing, XYZ exercises and I should be lifting this much weight and blah, blah, blah. If you don't feel physically up to that task, don't do it, right? Give yourself permission to either change the exercises or change the volume or the exercises or the weights, whatever. Don't just get caught up in chasing the numbers, because when you just get caught up in chasing the numbers, that's what very often leads to injury. People are trying to lift more than they're capable of lifting, and that's the root cause of virtually every injury. I mean, not all the injuries, but most injuries. You're doing more than your body's. You're lifting beyond your means. Now, it might not be beyond your means in terms of your personal best ever, but it's beyond your means for that particular day, right? Like, even though you might have benched 225 for 10 reps, 3 months ago, if you haven't done that in a while, or you're not feeling well rested, or you're tired or sore or whatever, that trying to duplicate that feat of strength today might cause an injury. So you might have to lower the weight, lower the reps or whatever, and adjust it accordingly. So that's how I go about my workouts now. So I still kind of have a guideline in mind that I'm following, but I'm very flexible with it. So if that makes sense, right? It's not strictly following the numbers. But when I'm coaching people, especially when I'm coaching new people, I do like to follow the guide, using our coaching app and following the program to the T. And more often than not, guys are able to follow those workouts and see progressive overload week by week. And we keep doing that until they start to hit those plateaus. And once they hit those plateaus, then we'll either change up the program and adjust things accordingly based on how their body responds in real time. So hopefully that helps to clarify that. And I love going into this because, as you'll notice, like a lot of these questions, it's not yes or no, right or wrong answers. It depends on the individual and the situation. And this is where fitness and nutrition is so darn confusing, is because you might follow somebody, like whoever your favorite fitness influencer is, whether on YouTube or Instagram or Facebook or wherever they are, and they say, this is how I do it, and this is how everybody should do it, and whatever. And, maybe that is how they do it, and maybe that works for them, but it doesn't necessarily mean that that's the way everybody should do it. And I'll give you an analogy. Like, let's just say we got a 25-year-old who's trying to bulk up and get as strong as possible, or they're, an athlete or a football player or a power lifter or bodybuilder, whatever. Their training approach is going to be totally different than a 50-year-old office worker who's trying to get back in shape and lose his gut, right? Like, it's a totally different situation, totally different scenario. So trying to say, okay, the program that a 25-year-old is going to use to bulk up and get strong is the same program that a 50-year-old is going to use to lose weight and get in shape and try and get back into the gym after, a decade layoff. No, it's not the same, right? You just can't cookie cutter and copy and paste, one guy's workout program. Like, I get a kick out of it. Like, someone will follow a celebrity's workout program, say, oh, this is what The Rock does. Oh, I've seen The Rock's workout program listed in Men's Health magazine, so I'm going to do that because I want to look like The Rock. Well, unless you have his schedule, his genetics, his body type, and everything else, then his program is not going to work for you. You have to find what works for you, right? What works for your schedule, your body type, your recovery, all those things. You just can't copy someone else's program and think that is going to work for you. You have to tailor it to your situation. And this is where having a coach and someone who knows this stuff can actually help you to customize it, right? I mean, this is what I do for my coaching students all the time. And I love getting into the nitty-gritty details like this. And I love more seeing someone implement that and then seeing the progress happen week by week. I mean, it's exciting, right? So that's what keeps me fired up and doing this, year after year for going on 30 years now. All right, what else we got there? We're almost at the hour mark. Gee, as soon as I turn on the camera for one of these live chats, it's like time just flies. That's crazy. Adam's saying, what do you think about having a protein shake before bed versus keeping a solid 12 hours without food while trying to build, maintain muscle, and lose weight? I would much rather you have consistent protein. And if you're trying to build muscle, you want consistent protein. Protein is the one nutrient that your body cannot store. Well, technically it stores it as muscle, but you don't want your body breaking down muscle to get the amino acids and protein it needs to function. You want to have dietary sources of protein and amino acids so that you don't have to break down your muscle tissue to get them. So consistent feedings of protein. This is one thing. Like throughout the day, you should be consuming consistent protein. I wouldn't recommend going prolonged periods without it. Personally, I have a meal before going to bed, and it's always a high protein meal. Like it might be a protein shake. It might be some cottage cheese or some, one that I like to do is I actually get some fat-free Greek yogurt and I put a scoop of protein powder in with it, stir it up, and it mixes up like a high protein pudding. That's one that I often have as a nighttime snack before going to bed. But I always make sure to have a serving of protein before bed. So that'll provide my body with the protein and the amino acid it needs over the course of the evening and while I'm sleeping. And it helps to provide, it prevents the body from breaking down muscle tissue. And that's what I'd recommend you. Keep your consistent feedings of protein in there. What else we got there? John is joining in, says, words I've been listening to since I've heard you say them, get in the gym. Something is better than nothing. I've went to the gym with that in my head, and before I leave, I have a full workout done. Thanks for the motivation. And I appreciate you for sharing that. And that is good words to keep in your head. Like something is better than nothing. Like when you're going through those slumps, those motivational slumps where you're like, I'm tired, I don't feel like it, I don't know, and you're trying to justify why you're going to blow off the workout, something's better than nothing. Give yourself permission to just show up and do an easy workout. An easy workout is better than no workout. Right? I think a big reason why a lot of people find it hard to go to the gym and they struggle with their motivation is because they're making it too big in their mind. And they're thinking that, oh, this is going to be this big daunting workout and I'm tired and I don't have the energy to go in and, bust my ass doing, heavy squats to failure and deadlifts to failure and bench presses to failure. And you don't have to do any of that. Like if you're feeling tired, just go in and do some easy isolation exercises or just do like a little machine circuit routine or heck, go in and do cardio. Something is better than nothing. Like make the habit of showing up to the gym a regular part of your routine, something you do, very consistently. It should be like clockwork. You want to be getting in there consistently, and then you can adjust the intensity based on how you feel. Like on those days when you got energy to burn and you're like, man, I'm feeling good. This is going to be a good workout. Heck, go in there and have a good workout. Do your heavy exercises, push harder, see what you're capable of. But on those days when you're like dragging your heels and you're like, oh, I don't really want to be here, those are the days where you give yourself permission to go through the motions and just realize something is better than nothing, right? And those something is better than nothing days, that's going to lay the foundation and build the momentum so that you can have those good workouts when you are feeling well rested. Because if you're not doing those consistent sub-maximal workouts, you're not laying the foundation. Like that's laying the base so that you can have those good workouts when you are feeling up to it. And if you're only training when you're feeling up to it, then you don't have the foundation. And then you go in there when you're feeling good and you end up pushing yourself and doing more than you're capable of. And that's when you end up getting injured, right? Yeah. Okay. I'm feeling strong and energetic today. Yeah. Let's slap another plate on the bench press. And then, oh shit, there goes the rotator cuff. And now you're out of the gym for 6 months. Like you need to lay the foundation with all these little workouts. The easy workouts are laying the base for the hard and high intensity workouts, right? So give yourself permission to go in there, be consistent, consistency over intensity, right? That's another one to keep in the back of your mind as well. We have Ron Dog saying, Coach Lee, nice to see you today. Well, appreciate you for joining in. Nice to have you joining into our video chat. RM says, it's funny you mentioned celebrity programs. When I first started back in 2005, I used to do that very thing. I thought if I followed Vin Diesel's program, I would turn into Vin Diesel. Yeah, I mean, you're not alone. Like that is so true. Like, heck, that's what sells magazines and stuff, right? Like they'll put some fitness celebrity or, actor or somebody or athlete on the cover of Men's Health and sell millions of copies, and people say, oh, I want to follow his workout so I have his body. And like, unless you have his situation, his genetics, and his, it ain't going to work for you, right? You have to follow what works for you. And that's very often different than what the celebrities are doing. Adam says, I'm going to give the Greek yogurt protein a mix. give it a try. Yeah, I mean, I have a video showing it. I mean, like it's very simple to do, but like if you want to see an example of it, let me see if I can find it. I'm going to post a link there. High protein. I made a couple videos about it, but I'm going to just share one. This is I actually used chocolate protein powder, and I think I even put a spoonful of peanut butter in with it as well. So it was like a chocolate peanut butter pudding. But it's surprisingly, when you mix protein powder in with Greek yogurt, it mixes really well. I know the first time I ever tried this, I wasn't convinced. I thought it was going to be clumps and lumps. I said, oh, this is going to suck. But it actually, you pour the powder in with the Greek yogurt and you just give it a stir for like after 10-20 seconds of stirring, like it just dissolves into this nice creamy pudding, and it actually works really good. So I just put a link there to the protein Greek yogurt pudding, I called it. But you can go check that out just to see an example of it. But you know, it's not complicated. You can figure it out on your own based on what I told you. But that's a video that I made sharing that exact recipe. It's an older video. I mean, it's over 12 years ago or 11 years ago I posted that one up, but still works just as well today. Right? That stuff doesn't expire. All right, guys, I'm going to get ready and clue it up. We're over the hour mark, and I mean, it was a great video chat. I always enjoy doing these chats, and hopefully you got some value from it as well. In the meantime, if you have any questions or feedback or anything that you would like to elaborate on, anything that we discussed today, or maybe your question didn't get answered and you would like to reach out to me, feel free to do so. Down below is my contact information. You can email me or Facebook message me. And if you haven't already done so, check out the Total Fitness Bodybuilding Podcast. Again, myself and my co-host, Jeff Samatero, we launch a new podcast every Tuesday, 11 a.m. Eastern Time. So if you haven't checked it out already, links to that is down in the description below as well. We're on, we've got 5 episodes published now. We've got episode 6 coming out this Tuesday. So I think at this stage of the game, we're going to officially call ourselves podcasters. Right? We got the momentum moving and we have no intentions of slowing down. So if you haven't checked it out already, check that out because there's a lot of valuable information. And if you have any suggestions that you would like to see in future episodes, maybe there's certain topics or things that you would like us to discuss, feel free to let us know, right? I mean, there's a big world of fitness and nutrition out there that we could discuss, but we want to gear towards what you would like to see. So if you have any suggestions, any feedback, please feel free to reach out to me, whether it's through email or through Facebook Messenger. Drop me a line. I'd love to chat with you. All right, I'm going to clue it up. Have yourself a fantastic weekend, and I look forward to talking to you next Friday, same time, same place. Take care. Over and out.